If you could discover the whole truth about one historical event, what would it be and why? The Romans flooding the Colosseum to have naval battle shows. I'd love to see the enormity of what setting that up actually looks like and what a spectacle those naval battle shows were. They are going to do it again. What happened on the Malaysian flight that disappeared? The most likely theory is that the pilot deoxygenated the plane and then flew around with the dead bodies for around 6 hours until he lost oxygen and died to inner suicide. It's just a very fascinating mystery that probably will never have a conclusive ending. The Trojan War. It definitely won't be as interesting as what Homer said happened, but I need to know. I'm always fascinated by ones like this, because when you look at the broad strokes of the Iliad and the Odyssey you can definitely work out how there's a pretty plausible story under there. Paris and Helen probably just eloped, or Paris kidnapped her. Achilles was probably just a particularly good fighter. Odysseus probably just shipwrecked, or spent a few years banging some hot chick he met then. When he got back to Penelope was all, like you aren't gonna believe what happened, babe. And all the rest got blown up into legend. I kinda wondered that about Moses supposedly making the Red Sea just split and let them walk through it. Like, realistically they would have thrown together makeshift rafts or something. And the story got exaggerated over and over till we ended up with divine intervention. Edit. No, I don't believe anything in the Bible at all. I was just wondering where that particular story originated from, if it did have even the tiniest thread of connection to a real event. A lot of miracles back then were just people not understanding things, AJD blowing stories way out of proportion. On March 18th, 1990, 13 works of art worth $500 million were stolen from the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum in Boston in the early hours. Guards admitted 2 men posing as police officers responding to a disturbance call, and the thieves tied the guards up and looted the museum over the next hour. No arrests have been made, and no works have been recovered. If I discovered the whole truth about this event, I'd love to see the art returned, and to collect the $10 million reward for information leading to the art's recovery, the largest bounty ever offered by a private institution. Or you now become the owner of $500 million worth of art. To be fair though, that art will probably never be found as it's likely been sold off to multiple people with no trail left behind. I doubt the people who stole the art or even the person who sold it off know where it's at now. I picture some rich underground art dealer having a ridiculously expensive painting hanging above his toilet right about now. Seriously, Jack the Ripper. My favorite Jack the Ripper theory is that there was no Jack the Ripper. Rather, a series of unrelated murders was spun into a narrative about a serial killer. Apparently the one note allegedly from Jack taking credit for the murders is of questionable authenticity, and even if it was real there's still the possibility of someone trying to take credit for a murder they didn't commit. I always think that the authorities made up Jack the Ripper to cover up for something. Not sure if this counts as historical in the traditional sense, but I want to know everything connected to Epstein and his pedoing. I want names, because I have a sinking feeling they're all going to get away with it. People in power are getting away with it all the time. Moreover, a side effect of being extremely wealthy and powerful seems to be the desire to duck kids. Something to consider before asking for a raise. You don't want to accidentally start making kiddie diddler money. I'd like to know what happened to D.B. Cooper after he jumped off the plane. My 2 favorite theories. He survived the jump, but lost the money along the way, so he just went back to his day job on Monday. He didn't really jump, but instead hid on the plane somewhere, in the hubbub around the plane after he landed. He slipped away. In this scenario he ditched his tie likely, because he was changing his appearance and his clothing in some way. In scenario #2 how do you explain the whereabouts, or lack thereof, of the Coney? All the societies / empires / tribes that have emerged during a period of human existence completely devoid of any recordings. Just a huge chunk of human existence lost to the dust of time. This makes me think of all the possible Native American / Middle Eastern / European tribes / groups / societies that could have ruled for hundreds of years. The more I think about it, the more I want to know about individuals. Like imagine the first people, not on record, to discover things like Niagara Falls, the Americas, Mount Everest, things like that. I wonder how many people had discovered those places before the word got around. The sinking of the Lusitania. I really want to know what that second explosion was, along with all the lies and twists and turns that the story took as various governments scrambled to make themselves look good. I think it could be a good possibility that she was carrying some dangerous cargo. But the munitions theory falls apart when you realize that the torpedo missed her cargo holds entirely and hit her boiler room. So what exploded? Why did she sink so fast? The US Foreign Office admitted that she was carrying ammo in the mid-80s, if I recall correctly. Just like we finally admitted that the Gulf of Tonkin incident didn't actually happen. The story of Stonehenge. I'm not even US citizen. But gosh, Kennedy, IDKY, but I'd like to know. In that vein, MLK, a civil suit filed by King's family, which was symbolic in nature. They only sued for $100, led to the conclusion by the jury that the assassination was part of a conspiracy by federal government agencies and the Memphis police. Would really like to know if that's true, and if so, what exactly happened. Wasn't MLK speaking out against the Vietnam War and wealth inequality, two things that the government wanted to continue? The plastic surgery and transportation of Nazi officers from Fuerteventura to Argentine. Also how we ended up in possession of a female skull instead of Hitler's actual skull. Something to do with Abstergo and the dual gender stuff in the latest revision of Animus. What the Pope said to Attila the Hun. The murder of Swedish Prime Minister Olof Palme in 1986. It's never been solved, even though it's the largest criminal investigation in Swedish history. The investigation was sort of concluded last year when police said we think it was this guy, but we don't really have any evidence, and unfortunately he died 20 years ago, so we can't ask him. Oh well, case closed. But no one is taking it seriously, and apparently they're thinking about opening it up again. Where is little William Tyrrell? 3-year-old boy who went missing from his front yard in NSW, Australia a few years ago without a trace. Breaks my heart. I was living in the area at the time he disappeared, and have even visited the house. The whole story is strange, and I can't wrap my head around it as being truthful. The house is at the end of a dead-end street, so in order for a car to have picked him up and disappeared with him so quickly and quietly is very hard to believe. It would have been seen/heard turning around to head out. They have proven the photo of him at the home that morning just prior had the date/timestamp doctored. I also find it odd that his sister was playing with him at the time of his disappearance, but it has never been made public what she saw. You would expect that she may have been able to suggest the make/model of the vehicle. I've always suspected the Foster family in this. His actual parents were never capable of being involved. I think the police know what happened, but can't make certain details public until they can piece it all together and make an arrest. I really want to know what happened to flight MH370, even though it's quite trivial in the grand scheme of things. There are a lot of solid answers here, but humanity did basically anything and everything they could to find it, and we still couldn't. I'd love to know what happened to the Nazi gold train. Fun fact. Here in Greece at the mountain ridges above the Katakallo area in Peloponnese, there used to be a fort and allegedly some tunnels going all the way across the ridge below that fort. When the Nazis took over, most of the riches looted by the Nazis in Peloponnese were stashed in those tunnels. At one point during the end of the war, the fort was destroyed and the tunnels buried. So everyone who knows about this wants to go dig up there, but this is likely never going to happen. Why? Because the Nazis, piss on their souls burning in hell, sprinkled the whole stony, rough mountain with landmines. Some of the children who were born there after the war have lost limbs or their lives up those mountains, and no one in an official position will give you permit to legally go up there and dig around. Since the only way up Jeet is on foot through the mine-infested mountainside, and illegally digging for ancient artifacts or historical items can easily get you charged for trying to smuggle antiquity items, among many other things. The guys that go and dispose the thousands of landmines left across battlefields after a war is over, won't they get those same people to do the same thing at this place? The Mary Celeste, a ship abandoned in 1872 for no known reason despite being full of cargo and ample supplies. Read about it as a kiddo, and I'm still wondering. I can't help but think this family was slightly cursed. I got bored once and did some genealogy on them. The captain was named Benjamin Spooner Briggs, and he was about 35 years old. His wife Sarah and 2-year-old daughter Sophia Matilda vanished with him. His father, struck by lightning, was also a sea captain, but was not at sea at the time. Still, what are the chances? Brother died of yellow fever at sea. He was only 24 and was buried at sea. Sister drowned in shipwreck aged 26. Husband also drowned. Their son survived but died the next year aged only 2. Brother died in a shipwreck. Survivors said he clung to the wreckage before finally dying after 4 days. Rescue came not too long after, only hours later, if I remember what I read correctly. Brother seems to be the only one who lived to a ripe old age, but in his life he lost 2 wives. All those siblings, nieces and nephews, and outlived 3 of his 4 children. Sister died aged 1. I realize that wasn't uncommon back then, but given everything else that went on just seems to add to it. Brother died of yellow fever at sea. Yes, another one was 26 years old. Half brother died aged 1. Son died at a day old. Daughter died at a day old. In fact, out of his 4 kids only 1 lived to adulthood. The oldest was staying with grandparents at the time his parents and younger sister went on the Mary Celeste. It's the only reason he survived. That's only the Briggs side of the family, and now counting grandparents, aunts, uncles, cousins, etc. It seems they loved the sea, but in many cases the sea didn't love them. The building of the Sphinx. The whole truth would reveal so much. Jesus' actual birthday and death. I can't believe how far I had to scroll to find this. I want the truth about the whole Jesus thing. Birth and death and everything in between. How are their works still in existence from Greek philosophers from the years BC? Yet there is so much uncertainty about what really happened around the time of Jesus. I have been having an existential crisis about this for years. I'm just bullshitting here. But maybe that's why his story is so popular. There's just enough documents to reasonably suppose he actually existed, but not enough concrete facts that we could pin him down as just another millenarian cult leader. Between total obscurity and a clear biographical record, there's enough wiggle room to fluff up the myth. The Bronze Age collapse and the identity/purpose of the Sea Peoples. I always found this super interesting. The theory I was taught at university was that an Icelandic volcano event caused enough of a change in the climate to disrupt the Mediterranean. If your civilization couldn't keep you fed, what was the point of it? Of course, this is just one theory, and one I was taught 9 years ago, so its validity is certainly up for question. The domestication of dogs. I saw a study once that tested the problem-solving behaviors of human-raised wolves vs dogs, and found that when they encountered an obstacle, the wolves would just keep trying, whereas the dogs would turn the puppy eyes on the nearest human to get some help. So the conjecture is that, rather than humans being the ones to seek out and domesticate wolves, dogs are descended from the wolves who looked at humans and went, "Hey you," with the opposable thumbs. Guess what, we are friends now. I'd love to know exactly how that played out. A theory I've heard is that dogs were the wolves with less instinctual fear of humans, and so they approached fires for food. This next part is conjecture for me personally. I think it's possible that some humans had seen the symbiotic relationship wolves had with a certain bird, don't remember which, and commented on it, causing some of the humans to begin attempting to train the wolves. The Library of Alexandria. What did we lose? I'm surprised I had to scroll this far to get to this comment. The origin of any of the world's major religions. Know where the duck is a Zodiac killer. He might be in his 70s now. Yeah. Where the duck is that guy. Nobody has cracked the case. The maximum headroom incident. Please. 100% this. Being able to break into a broadcast, but not to send something meaningful. No. Some gibberish crap. Fantastic. Probably an inside job, but still. It's good, but it could be better. Madeleine McCann disappearance. Not making a sick joke. Genuinely wanna know what really happened. A German pedophile with a history of violent sexual assaults lived in the area, and his phone was recorded as being outside the apartment block on the night MMCC disappeared. He also later told friends that he'd kidnap her, not knowing that the cell phone evidence existed to corroborate his claim. Hard to look past him as the prime suspect. All seems to have gone a bit quiet on this front since news of him broke. It suggested the Germans had reason to believe she was dead, but couldn't prove anything. I'd like to see what dinosaurs really looked/sounded like. I've always wondered about how we would perceive them. Humans and dinosaurs never existed side by side, as far as we know, so what would our instincts around them be? Of course it's hardwired in our genetics to recognize and fear other large predators and the sounds they make, and places they would likely be: caves, dens, nests etc. But if we never evolved to avoid dinosaurs, what would our instinctive response to them be? Rasputin. Legit, what was this dude on? Thank you for watching. We hope you enjoyed this video. Please subscribe for more videos.